Hello friends and welcome to yet another Python video. In this Python video, I'm going to tell you one of the fastest ways to create a RESTful endpoint in Python, and we will see how simple it can get. But before that, let's understand what is an API. You must have heard this term API. So what is an API? An API is an application programming interface. So what exactly does it mean? Like, what is an application programming interface? Well, whenever you're building an application, there are chances that it will have to talk to various different components. Like a single software project may have different components, and those components may have to work together or they may have to talk together to accomplish certain things. For example, your application may have to talk to the operating system in order to get some services. Like your application may have to ask the operating system to create a file, for example, read a file, write a file, or maybe creating some windows, like if we're talking about the GUI systems. Similarly, your application may have to talk to a database, your application may have to talk to some server which is hosted somewhere on the cloud. So all such communication, it happens through certain APIs. Now, what is an API formally? Well, an API is a set of rules or principles, we can say, a set of rules or a protocol kind of a thing, which basically decides or dictates how exactly will the client talk to the server. So when I say how exactly, it talks about what protocol will be used, what data exchange format will be used. Now coming to the RESTful APIs, in RESTful APIs, the protocol used is HTTP, the same protocol which is used to serve all the web pages. And if I talk about the data exchange format, the JSON data exchange format is used. JSON means JavaScript object notation, wherein if I have to talk about it in, let's say, for Python programmers, you can think of it as a dictionary-like structure wherein there are keys and there are values. But of course, there are differences between JSON data and the dictionary data structure in Python. Now, what we are going to do in this video, we are going to learn how you can get started with creating these APIs in Python, creating these web APIs, we can say, or the RESTful APIs in Python. So it's going to be very simple. Let me just go ahead and open up my terminal. So the very first thing, so whenever you want to start a Python project, I think we have already covered this in some of the past videos, that it is always advisable to create an isolated environment for your project, and that is done with the help of venv. So let me just go ahead and do that first of all. So python -m venv, this is how I can create a new virtual environment. If you're not aware of what a virtual environment is, you can check out the video which has been created on virtual environment. So now that the virtual environment has been created, I need to install the package or the library which I'm going to use in order to create the API. So if you are a Python programmer, you would already know that there are multiple ways to create an API. Some of the best known libraries or frameworks are Django, Flask, and FastAPI. And in this specific video, what I'm going to use is I'm going to use FastAPI. So let me just go ahead and install FastAPI. So by the time it is installing, I would also like to take you to the FastAPI website, and because it's quite helpful and we can actually see the installation here. As you can see that pip install FastAPI, that is what we have done. And if you are going to deploy it to certain server or some environment, then you would always need this thing also, that is UVCon. I don't mind installing this right away. So yeah. Then here we have the example. As you can see that creating a simple API is, it's very simple to have a basic API running. You just have to, from FastAPI, you have to import FastAPI, and then you have to define some routes. Now, if you look at how exactly you have to run it, again, one simple command and your API is all set to go. So first of all, let's just do some very basics, like let's write this specific code. So what we can do is we can actually copy it from here itself. So now let me create a new file called as app.py, where I'm going to copy paste the code which we took from there. So I don't think we need this for now. All that we need is this FastAPI, we need this app. So here we are creating the FastAPI app. And because we have created this FastAPI app, only then we are able to use these decorators like app.get. And then whatever function we are writing here, this function will get called whenever somebody visits this URL in their browser or through some other agent. So here we are simply returning hello world. I think it's okay to start with this only. So now we have got something working, and in order to run this application, we can use this command. So let's just go ahead and do that. Awesome. So now this is listening on or running on 8000 port. So what I can do is I can go to my browser, I can visit localhost and 8000, and this should return me the result. Okay, so there happens to be, it's saying that could not load the module main. There is some error here. Let's just go ahead and check. What is it that we have done wrong here? Okay, so they had created this file called as main.py. Okay, that is where we made this mistake. So we had to write app instead of main. So let's just go ahead and write app. Cool. Okay, so now let's visit 8000 once again. Let's go here. As you can see that hello world is getting printed. Now let's say if you want to do something serious. Now let's say you're a front-end developer and you really want some logical response coming to you. What you can do is, it's very simple. I will be showing you one of the ways and we'll be exploring more as we go along. So let's say we have got some JSON data, user.json for example. And what I can do is I can store some data here. Let's say name, and the data is about a person, let's say James, and profession, for example, Python developer. There could be some other fields like, for example, project. Let's say generative AI, something like that. So we have a record, we can add any number of fields. So this is like, this is a JSON file now. So now what I can do is I can simply read this file. Now, let me tell you one more thing here, that the example which I'm trying to give you is assuming that you're doing something very simple, because we will see in the future videos that if you're doing anything close to the real world applications, you will always have to connect with a database. You will have to fetch some data from a database, or you may have to fetch some data from third-party server where you're hosting some other set of APIs and so on. But again, this is a very simple example where I just want to show you that how can you return some meaningful data to the user. So now what I can do is I can simply say file equals open, and I can open the user.json file in the R mode. And I can probably then say that, let's say data equals file.read. And then what I can do is I can, I'll have to import JSON here. Let's say import JSON. And then I can parse this data. So JSON.loads is what will be used for that. So what I can do is result equals JSON.loads, and then I can do data. Now what I can do is I can simply return result here instead of returning anything else. So I'm directly returning the JSON object, which we have got from here. Okay. So now let's just go back and let's try to refresh this page. Now you can see that name James, profession Python, Python developer and project generative AI. So in this way, you can get started with let's say building APIs in Python. And the objective of this video is just to show you that it is very simple. As you can see that I have written only a few lines of code, like in 10 to 12 lines of code, I have got something very good to start working with. And like even when you are not aware of how exactly your database is going to look like, or how exactly you're going to have other models in your project, and you still want to start something on front end, for example, then it's a good idea to have these kinds of objects, and you can have such routes. It actually gives you a good idea about how your backend will respond to you. So this is a very quick and I should say dirty solution, because there are so many things which we haven't taken into account here. For example, absolutely no error handling, absolutely no logging. But this is meant to be a getting started video. So in the future videos, we'll be covering more about what are the different aspects of web applications. I hope you understood what we were trying to teach in this specific video. That is, now you can create a Python API in no time. So cool. I'm sure that you can try out more such examples. You can try building some more endpoints, and do let me know in the comments if you face some issue. And as you can see that I have tried get here. You can try with other HTTP methods like post, put, delete, patch, etc. And again, as I mentioned, do let me know in the comments if you face any trouble while building with the help of FastAPI. So with this, I'll conclude this video for now. I'll see you in the future videos. Till then, take care and bye-bye.